Oh my goodness, folks. The economic numbers that dropped today show horrible job creation in this country. Black unemployment jumps to 7.5%. Let me say that again in case you misheard me. 7.5%. That's black unemployment. Last year, it was a low of 6.1. And where are all those black MAGA people? Where's the help? I thought they were sitting here saying things are going to be great. This is going to be the golden era. Well, guess what? This basically is signaling a significant slowdown in the U.S. economy when it comes to employment growth. Overall, folks, last first approximately 22,000 jobs. Just 22,000 jobs were added last month, significantly below the expectations of around 75,000 jobs that economists projected. Now, overall employment rate increased to 4.3%. And we see, of course, as we see what's happening with black people, specifically unemployment among black men increased to 7.1%. For black women, spiked to 6.7%. The rising unemployment rates for black women, often an early indicator of economic downturn, serve as another warning sign. Morgan Harper is the Director of Policy and Advocacy at the American Economic Liberties Project. Glad to have you back on the show, Morgan. I thought MAGA said this is supposed to be amazing. Oh, we were just going to be raining. It's going to be raining cash and things were going to be made. Now they're trying to blame the Fed and Jerome Powell. No. How about your stupid tariffs? How about the rising in food prices and all? We are seeing Trump was handed a great economy from Biden-Harris, like he was previously handed a great economy from Obama-Biden, and he's screwing it up.
Yeah, there is no denying. And I mean, I think, Roland, we don't need to look any further than the White House itself had to admit today how bad these numbers are. We know that these are not people that will ever admit to anything negative about Donald Trump. And there was no denying. Only having 22,000 jobs created last month. The fact that this is not just below expectations for what we were expecting for August for this year, but it's 70% lower than what were actually created a year ago before he was in office. I will say, I mean, I think a lot of this, and we can get to this a little later, is stemming from some issues that have been going on in the economy in terms of income inequality, wealth inequality for some time. But you are absolutely right that Donald Trump is exacerbating a lot of this with his reckless policies with tariffs and how he's implementing them without any accompanying domestic strategy. It's creating so much uncertainty in the economy. And there's a lot more here. I mean, the fact that manufacturing jobs, yes, have not at all been created with the 6-month straight decline. These are facts that we have not seen in some time. Construction jobs are negative for this past year or since the beginning of this year. And a lot of people now we're seeing are out of work. So the black unemployment numbers are really troubling. I mean, we've already talked about the fact that black women are impacted most by some of these federal job cuts. I think it's important, Roland, which maybe you've already noted, but the fact that now CNBC is having to report on these figures, I think shows just how real the risks are here and what it will likely mean for the broader economy. And that a lot of people are now, more in part-time jobs than we were seeing before. These are all adding up to an economy, that is very weak. No one knows exactly when a recession might come, what extent it might take or look like, but there's not a lot of positive information here.
Look at John Deere reporting a 26% drop in profits. You've got these whiny Arkansas farmers complaining about, oh my God, we're losing our farms, soybean crops, how are we being impacted? Well, guess what, you idiots? We were impacted by soybean crops in 2000 in the first Trump term. So I'm like, what are y'all talking about? But guess what? Arkansas, they voted for Trump. Tennessee people are complaining about prices. They voted for Trump. And so one of the things that I always said, and of course, John Deere is saying that the problems they have, increased tariff costs, reduced prices for corn and soybeans. As a result, they've laid off 200 workers at their plants in Iowa and Illinois this summer, and they warned the sales of its large farm machinery, the primary source of revenue, could decline by as much as 20% through 2026. In North Carolina, farmers are experiencing a double whammy. Prices for soybeans already fallen 40% from their peak in 2022, and China's retaliatory tariffs on U.S. soybeans remain in effect. We saw this last time. So I'm sorry, Morgan. Thoughts and prayers for these idiots who voted for him again after he destroyed farmers, leading to a $25 billion bailout for mostly white farmers the last time the idiot was in the Oval Office.
Yeah, and I think that's why you're hearing the messaging from them that, oh, don't worry, the real data is going to come soon, in a year. Don't worry about what's happening right now. Just hold your horses a little bit, and then you're going to see how great this economy is going to be. That's kind of like, maybe I'm going to become the Queen of England. There's nothing about my current life that suggests that that's likely to happen, but that's the fantasy that continue to feed people. And it's not a fantasy. It's a nightmare. They have set up a nightmare, and it is going to impact farmers. I mean, we've touched on this before, but I think it's important to note again. They're trying to suggest that, oh, well, of course there's going to be difficulty with some of these industries. We're taking on the immigrants. It's like, well, no, immigrants have been propping up the American economy, especially in industries like agriculture, but it's across the board. And so that's not a good thing. They're trying to make it seem like they're fulfilling this mission, but that's only going to add to the labor costs that a lot of these farmers are experiencing, in addition to the impacts from tariffs. So we're at the beginning of this journey. We are not at the end. They are going to, it seems, continue to try to dilute the American people into thinking that somehow this is part of a master strategy. But when you have the Secretary of Commerce that is on TV in reaction to these numbers today, suggesting that all is well and give it some time, I mean, this is madness. And again, really, really scary. So, I mean, I think the other thing to keep in mind as all of this is happening, and the experience of real people in the economy that know that they should be nervous, that know that they have no guarantee that if we do face another downturn, there is going to be an adequate government response that isn't just trying to pay political favors, that will actually do something for all Americans, that there is complete giveaway to some of the largest corporations in America. So that there was a dinner last night with all of these tech executives congratulating, in the case of Google, for example, that their antitrust lawsuit is likely to go away, that it didn't result in them having to really change their business model, that we're going to collaborate with you all on AI. Who's that going to benefit? How many jobs is AI creating? And how many jobs are going to be created if it's just Google who's in charge of AI? So there's a lot going on. It's hard to keep track of it all. I appreciate, Roland, all you're doing to try to keep people informed, because we are headed in a really, really bad direction here, and we need to make sure that folks understand, are speaking out, and more importantly, are really coming together to figure out, okay, when this all completely falls apart, what do we need people to do? What do we need our elected officials to do, and really to look out for each other?
Morgan, I have said for the longest that broke white people are going to have to be harmed economically for this country to wake up. And guess what? We're on our way. Now, we already see this impacts African Americans, it impacts Latinos, it impacts all people of color. But what these white folks are going to have to feel the pain, it is going to have to be direct, immense. So when you talk about, listen, right now, we've never had this many homes on the market for sale, and folks are like, I ain't buying, because they have economic uncertainty. They don't know if they're going to have their jobs. You got interest rates up. And so folks are like, man, you got now those people who are trying to sell those homes now have to sit on those homes, and they're not going to be economically harmed. The Doge cuts, the firing of the federal workers, the canceling of the billions in grants. What you saw was literally, if I have to phrase it, this was an economic seizure that took place that's now metastasizing into an economic heart attack. And these people are like, oh my God, what do we do? And guess what? Y'all voted for it. This is exactly what you voted for. So when I hear one of these white folks go, we didn't vote for this. Yes, you did. You simply didn't pay attention.
Yeah, and so that's why I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. They're saying, in a year it's all gonna show how it's positive, and you'll see the strong economic growth. I mean, a year from now takes us to a little bit before November 2026, and there's going to be a lot of elections then. So how this is all massaged over to the American public that they should still support all of these Republicans that have completely co-signed on this agenda, that have not put up any sort of resistance to things like the Medicaid cuts that are going to be another. I mean, I got to say, I was on a conservative outlet this week where they do these debates between, the liberal and the conservative host. And this woman's laughing in my face when I'm saying, what really threatens safety is like things like taking away people's health care, taking away their economic security. That's what leads to increases in crime. And that's what you all are doing. And she's laughing at me. I was like, this is, I'm not just making this up. This is research. This is data. These are facts. They don't want to admit that, but it is coming and it is going to be really bad. And I think the other thing, the other justification that they're using to try to kind of earn more time or have the public stay with them is that, the tax cuts are coming. This is what's going to make businesses invest and then really bring back the manufacturing. We have a financialized economy in the United States. The companies that are really driving economic growth, many of them are public companies that are closely tied to the stock market. When they get extra money, they don't have to use that to build a new factory. They can use that to pay dividends to their stockholders. So, what would make them more likely to do something like invest in building a factory would be the government creating subsidies and incentives for them to use their money for that purpose, rather than just paying it out to themselves in huge CEO packages. That is not happening in this administration. So what is likely to happen with these tax cuts for companies? They will keep that money for themselves. They will make themselves richer. That is not likely to improve the economic outlook for most of the people living in America. And I agree with you, Roland. I mean, unfortunately, it does appear that until we have broad-based, including a lot of the white voters that supported Donald Trump, that are feeling that economic pain, I don't know that we're going to see anything different. I guess the other thing I would add, though, is that I don't know if even once experiencing that, the connection is going to be made that it's this administration's fault. And that's the political question that Democrats are going to face ahead, looking at 2026 and 2028. What's the counter message to what they will be saying? Because they will do whatever they can, I think, to make this seem like it's not their fault. And then what is our vision for the future?
Questions for the panel. Candace, you're first.
Yeah, Morgan, I am wondering, where are the jobs? I think that's what people want to know. If they're not here where I am, if they're not there with the 319,000, Black women especially that got let go from their jobs between February and July, where can people go? Is it a state? Is it an arena, an industry that we're just maybe not thinking of or looking at that there might be something there?
Well, the only industries that seem to still be creating jobs, given the real steep decline in job growth, is healthcare. But even in that stat from the last month's data, it's showing that healthcare job openings are declining as well. And so, if people were looking for an industry that's a little bit more safe from the impacts of tariffs, usually, healthcare and government would be two industries you would look towards. But in this environment where state budgets are going to be cut, where we know DOGE has really eliminated a lot of the possibility of getting hired in the federal government, healthcare remains. But I think we also need to be honest about the fact that our healthcare industry has been financialized, like I was talking about before. So when they are also facing some uncertain economic headwinds, when there has been no intervention from the government to force them to spend their money in a certain way, what are a lot of corporate healthcare systems going to do? Continue to pay their executives a lot of money, perhaps, and continue to try to get as much as they can out of insurance companies and such, but not necessarily anything that's going to pass along to higher wages for their employees, for example, the practitioners, healthcare workers, create more jobs, try to hire more people. They might also be crunched in that way. That is leading to things like fewer job openings right now. So again, not at all a good jobs report here. And this is something that I do think, though, we need to continue to make sure people are sharing their stories of what they're experiencing on the ground in these industries. But yeah, when we have healthcare that's not available, I think when we look at the Black male unemployment rate rising, that can also be driven by things like manufacturing and also transportation, logistics jobs that are being contracted as well. These are not the safe industries that one might expect, especially given some of the promises from the administration about what we were supposed to be getting from their policy decisions.
Michael?
All right, Morgan. So, Morgan, I'm confused because I thought rounding up all these illegal immigrants was going to open up the job market. And when we look at the reporting from the Census Bureau and Pew Research, 1.2 million immigrants are gone from the U.S. workforce under Donald Trump. So why is it the job market exploding? I thought that's why people were voting, because he was going to round up the illegals. Please explain it to me.
Yeah, I mean, and we have to almost laugh to kind of work through all of this, but it's just it is really unbelievable, just the lies that are being spewed right now and the impact that it's having on real people and communities. And so, yeah, like I was saying before, I mean, the U.S. economy at this point, not just in agriculture and food service, a lot of different industries relies on the work of immigrants. We can have a whole separate conversation about the legality of how a lot of people have come into this country or not, and whether or not they should be here given how they got in here and the policies to do something about that. That's a conversation that could be had. You know who is really well positioned to have and do something about it? Republicans who are in control of Congress and the White House.
Right.
If they wanted to pass a bill tomorrow to do something about immigration and how that impacts the labor market and making sure that Americans are getting the jobs that they want, they could do that tomorrow. That's not what this is about. This is about political points that they want to score to be able to maintain political power. It is having a very detrimental impact on the economy, because the reality, again, is that we need a lot of immigrants to be able to support the industries that are driving our economy.
Yeah, especially farming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me first say it's hard for me to have Candace and Morgan in the same place. It's too much brilliance in one spot. So y'all got to break this up next time. But in any event, Morgan, my question for you.
Oh, my God, the sucking up is amazing.
I was like, I like it.
Can I continue? Thank
I'm
you.
a big fan of Candace.
Is this a harbinger for even worse things to come? And I ask because I know the Salesforce CEO said something like, I'm getting rid of 4,000 jobs because I need less heads with AI. This is obviously what's going to be kind of the future. And my question for you is, how is that represented in these numbers? Because you're seeing a contraction overall, right, in terms of what workforce is for a lot of these corporations. And to that end, what ideas, I know you've already mentioned healthcare, but are there any other sectors that you suggest people look at in terms of insulating themselves for even further declines with less, people needed in the workforce?
Well, yeah, and thank you for your compliments and your questions. So what I would say is, some of the data that we're seeing from this past month is showing that people who are looking for jobs are looking for those jobs a lot longer. That's one of the things that's showing up in the data. And so that does connect to something like the Salesforce CEO announcing, hey, we're on pause. We're laying people off, which means we're not going to be hiring people more. He's saying it's AI, and maybe it is, but maybe it isn't, right? And there's a lot of other companies that are announcing layoffs that are using the cover of the economic uncertainty to be able to just kind of shed workers. Because again, this connects to what is driving our economy right now. And a lot of the companies that are in the US that are responsible for our growth, they are connected to the stock market. They are financialized. They win when they are rewarding stockholders. They are not winning when they are paying the average American to work at their company. And so if they have a little bit of an opening to be able to say, hey, this labor cost, we can kind of reduce this a little bit, most of them are going to take that because they don't actually give that much of a shit about what's going on at the community level for us as Americans, right? And so that is not to say that there aren't companies that are legitimately reacting to the uncertainty and the bad policies that are coming out of this administration and making the very valid and rational decision of, we can't expand right now. We can't do more hiring. But I think we need to distinguish between those types of companies and be honest about how they might differ, how your small business or an independent business that is not able to withstand some of the impacts of these increased tariff prices, and a very, very large company like a Salesforce, like a Meta, like a Google, that they have a lot of financial resources to withstand uncertainty, might use this moment as an excuse to be able to get rid of some of their labor costs. And so,
Gotcha.
Yeah. And now I'm trying to remember the second part of your question because I went on too long. What was the second?
Well, it's just basically how listeners might look for certain sectors that will insulate them, more so than others.
I mean, I wish I had better news there. And I think this is, so like I said, I mean, healthcare is one that traditionally should be a little bit more insulated. And so, but unfortunately, we are seeing that even that sector is being impacted right now with fewer openings. Government, similar kind of thing. And so I think that is a very dire observation and in reality that's showing up in the data right now, that there might not be any sectors that are extremely safe. I'm not trying to give people exact financial advice or certainly not life coaching type of advice, but this might not be the kind of time to make a big move financially or with a job, because it's not clear. And like I said, and what's showing up in the data is people who are looking for jobs might be looking for them longer. A lot of young people aren't able to get jobs at all, also a risk. And so the unfortunate thing is that who is set up to continue to take big risks? Well, it's just like that dichotomy between small businesses and big corporations. People who are already pretty affluent, who don't rely on wages as much for covering their day-to-day expenses, that have more wealth, like an Elon Musk that's now being offered this $1 trillion pay package. Well, they're going to be able to continue to take those risks and consider different industries, and maybe they want to start a business. For the rest of us, I don't know that this is the time to necessarily do that, but something for everybody to consider for themselves and make a decision there. But I don't think there's any way to look at this data and suggest that America economically is on a great trajectory.
Well, and on that particular point there, Morgan, when we talk about, if you tie this economy to the number of homes that are available, again, people are not about to make a major purchase, have to put down 10, 20, 25%. If you don't know what's going to happen, you're like, yo, I need to hold on to cash. This is the thing that people don't understand about the American economy. We're a $30 trillion economy, but 70% of the American economy is based on spending. Spending. So if people don't have money, they're not making money, they can't spend. Second, if people are fearful that they're going to lose their jobs, the first thing they're going to do, stop spending and start conserving. So when you look at the consumer confidence, that's a hallmark right there of like, hey, where do people stand? And people need to understand, when Americans stop spending money and start saving money and conserving money, you can bet a recession is on its way, because they're scared to death that they're not going to be able to have that cash 3, 6, 9 months down the road.
Absolutely right. And here's another point on the data, and something for people to keep in mind as they're seeing different news reports. And because we're seeing, consumer spending is still up. There's data showing that consumers are not optimistic about the economy. But then you see this data that's the spending is staying consistent. And now reporting is showing, well, that spending is being driven almost entirely by the highest earners and those that have the most money. So when you look at it in the aggregate, oh yeah, Americans are still spending money. But when you dig a little deeper, it's like, no, rich people are still spending a lot of money. The average person is starting to pull back. And Roland, just to add another layer to that, yeah, in the best case scenario, people are pulling back and are still able to cover their necessities and basic needs. But what we're also starting to see creep up is debt. And that even in the case of things like groceries, more consumers are relying on things like, the buy now, pay later platforms, like Affirm, like lending to buy something that's just one discrete item, not lending to buy a house, lending to buy some groceries or get grocery delivery. That is a whole new ballgame for the American economy, having that layer of type of debt that is now in the mix of, yes, what has been a spending and finance to spend economy for the U.S. consumer over the last at least 20 years, but going back even further as we've seen the government kind of back out of really supporting American workers since the 1980s.
To make matters worse, I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but I'll go ahead and bring it up. How stupid is Donald Trump in ICE? You got Hyundai. Hyundai's building a multi-billion-dollar factory in Georgia, and these idiots are arresting the South Korean workers. I don't think that's going to go over well with the South Koreans. And if this stupidity happens, you're going to have these foreign people, these foreign companies who Donald Trump keeps claiming are going to be investing trillions of dollars. It's all a lie They're going to be like, we're not about to spend money in this country. ICE arrested 475 people at the Georgia Hyundai electric vehicle plant, including South Koreans who were there working on the building of their plant. That's another stupid thing to do, Morgan.
Yeah, and when you've empowered, I mean, where is government spending going right now? You've empowered ICE to engage in vigilante justice as they define it. This is the type of idiocy that we get. Yeah, not logical. I mean, I was on the show in Columbus last night, and we're each going to our cars. I have a Ford F-150 truck. He's going into his Honda. He's like, oh, but made in America. And I was like, yeah, but it's a foreign company. So to your point, Roland, these companies they are foreign companies, but they are creating jobs in the United States. Honda, huge presence in Ohio. Yeah. Hyundai, this factory. So we are in a global economy, and we are very much connected to a lot of companies that are based other places wanting to invest in America and in U.S. workers and as we see, in some cases, workers from other places too, but these are drivers of economy, especially at the regional level. And so, yeah, there's no logic to what's going on. It's all leading to a real economic problem for us, and let's just hope that more people wake up to what's happening.
All I have are 4 letters, FAFO. Morgan Harper, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.